All right, happy cold Monday. I hope you guys are doing well and warming up from this very, very crazy weather that we've been having here lately. Yeah, it's been super, super cold, but a perfect time to scrapbook and get caught up. And I've heard from many of you guys that you are doing just that. So I'm excited and happy for you. I thought we would jump in on that bandwagon and we would work on our thank you workshops for November. So as you know, I talked about last week, I am a little bit behind, but never, it's never too late to scrapbook, right? All right, so what we're going to do tonight, we're going to start out with making this fun layout. This is going to show a lot of the techniques that we're going to do in our cards. So I wanted to kind of show you how this goes. So if you want to go ahead and grab this packet, and then you're also going to need your acorn ink and your mink ink and some blending brushes, adhesive, all the fun things, right? All the things that we normally need. So go ahead and grab those, and then let's go ahead and start with prayer. Lord God, I just thank you so much for tonight, Lord. And I thank you that even though it's cold outside, we're at home and able to be warm in our house, Lord, and just to have fun and scrapbook together. I pray that you help us to have a great time tonight, Lord, and that I am clear and that we can all just have some fun. We just thank you and praise you in Jesus' name, amen. Okay. So let's go ahead, grab your paper. You're also going to need, as part of the supply list, I had the tree stencil from the November, December catalog. I love, love, love this stencil. There's so much to do with it. And unfortunately, I did not get to showcase it like I so badly wanted to during November and December. As we've talked about recently, life has had its own little stuff going on, so I did not get to play with it and show you all as much as I wanted to. But if you did purchase it, go ahead and grab that. I'm going to show you how we're going to use it. If not, if you have a stencil that has a lot of lines that are going across the page, you can try and use that one as well, because what we're going to be using it for is not really going to be for a lot of the tree area, but more for the other sections and that kind of thing. So go ahead and grab that, and then let's get busy and have some fun. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take out our base pages, and we're actually going to build a lot of our base pages before we do anything else, okay? So we're going to take these pieces, put them to the side. I'm going to work on this left side first. All right, and I want to make sure I have all my pieces right before I start telling you what to do. So it's going to be this one here. All right, and we're going to start with, you can start with either if you want the lighter or the darker of the acorn. I prefer the lighter side, but if you like the darker side, whichever you prefer, okay? So it's not going to hurt. And we're going to put this down like 1/8 of an inch from the left edge of our base page. So just basically in the center of one of the blocks, if you have your Versamat pad, just in the center of one of those blocks. That would be 1/8 of an inch. Okay, just like that. Then we're going to go next, we're going to go with the piece of paper here that looks like wood grain. And then finally, we're going to go with this piece here, which I love the little, you could use either side, but I've chosen to use the crisscross side instead of the polka dot. I love that it's got just enough detail to it, but it's not like this overpowering detail. All right. So now what we're going to do before we move it any further, I'm going to just actually cut off my overhang that I have here on my paper. If you have any overhang, go ahead and grab your scissors. Now's a good time to do it. I've just got just a little bit. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take your tree pattern, and on this tree pattern, I'm going to actually use, let me see which one I want to use, or which one I did use, I should say. This one, I believe I used this one here in the center. It's kind of got, I don't know if you guys can see it, I'll try and put it down here on the paper, that might help. But you can see it's got that center that's absent. There's nothing there in the center, and it kind of comes off. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start over here in the corner. I'm going to put this down, and I'm actually going to put a little adhesive on the back of this so it will hold still. All right, and hopefully this won't be too glossy to come through, but I'm going to put this on here. That way it's easy to remove. All right, and I am just going to literally hold this, getting some of our paper. I'm going to put it so that that centerpiece is kind of going off the edge of the page. And so all I'm getting is not a straight line, but I'm getting more of a, the lines that are going at the angle, okay? And then here we're gonna take our Acorn ink, and I wanna make sure that as I'm doing this, see how some of these other trees are pretty close to it? Be really careful not to get adhesive there. If you're concerned that you might, go ahead and take a little sticky note, something like that, to kind of block off some of those other sections, and that might help you not get it into those areas. So then all we're gonna do, I'm gonna kind of move this over a little bit. This might slide, so I wanna have it off the edge of my page or edge of my work surface. So I can just kind of dig into it, and then I'm going to go kind of at an angle following the design of what I've got going on here. And I'm just lightly going to it. I'm not looking to overdo it a lot, but just a little bit. I can lift it up and see I've got just a little bit of a pattern here. Now I'm going to turn my page, my base page, and do the same thing, but going opposite. I'm going backwards. And I'm doing it like this so that I'm getting a totally different, you can't tell it's a tree. It's just picking up the design that we're looking for. Again, having that center line going off the edge of the page, so I'm not getting any of the center line. I'm going to cover up the other design I have going here, and then again, same thing. I'm just following the line of the design so that I'm not picking up. If I kind of went back and forth or in a circle, a lot of these little pieces here would lift up and then you wouldn't get the design. So I'm just following the design as it goes. And then there you go. So then I'm gonna just wash this off real quick and wash off your stencil as well, because we're gonna do it now in the mink and we don't wanna pick up any of the brown into the mink, okay? So we're just gonna do the exact same thing. Chamois for the win, right? Okay, now we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to go here on the edge of our page. Again, I'm going down from the top. I'm allowing it to kind of go off the edge. I'm going to pick up this and cover up any of the other part that I might struggle with and have an issue with. And then I'm going to get out my mink ink. So what we're doing is, with a lot of supplies that we might already have or something like that, we're really just pulling them in and we're using them in a fun way to give texture to our background without having to do a whole lot of extra work, okay? And so now I'm just doing the same thing I did with the acorn, I'm doing with my mink, just taking my mink ink and kind of going over the top. Mink is one of those really subtle colors, and so it will look like you're not getting much, but if you pick up your design, you should be able to see it just very, very faintly underneath. And if you want more, then go and add more, okay? Same thing here. Gonna do this on this one, down here at the bottom. And if there's another design that you would prefer, you could absolutely do that. I'm keeping it very, very simple, but there's so many fun patterns on here. All right, and there we go. So again, I'm just gonna wash off my stencil so that it's clean and ready for my next project or the next page that we get to. I'm definitely in need of a new chamois, I can tell. Is your chamois getting pretty nasty as well? That just means it's been lots of love and work, right? All right, so I'm gonna put this here in the center again, close this up. And then we're just going to kind of do some of the other little pieces that shouldn't take us very long at all. So we're going to go ahead and we want to stamp our title. We're going to stamp Grateful, and we're going to do that in our Acorn ink. And then we're also going to need our charcoal ink, because we're going to do, you can use any of these little phrases here that would work well for you for what you're wanting to do. We're going to kind of do those over the top of our acorn so that they show up pretty well. And it kind of gives a fun different dimensional look, or our 2-color look to our stamped image. Okay, so we're just going to put this in here at Grateful. Just like that. Okay. And then for all the cherished moments, I think is what I'm going to put here. And I'm going to do this in charcoal so it shows up fairly well. You could do it in black, but black is kind of, you know, stark. And so this is just a fun way to do it without it really having an issue as far as, you know, being so bright and taking over from the other color. And so, because this is such a small, thin line, what I'm doing is I'm putting it down upside down, and then I'm going to pick it up with my block. And that's going to help it keep that straight pattern. Okay, and so I just want to make sure I can read it. I don't have it upside down. Again, I'm using charcoal, and then I'm just kind of going along the bottom of the word Grateful, just right on top of it, but at the bottom, and then putting for all the cherished moments, and that helps it show up a lot better. And again, if you feel like that's still a little too light, you could do it in black. Totally up to you. All right. So then what we're going to do is we're going to lay this out first so that we kind of have an idea of where we want to put it. I'm putting it about, I would say about between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 of an inch, okay, right here at the edge. And then I'm going to take my little half moon per se, and we're just going to tuck this in right here. And if whatever side you used of your acorn paper here is the side that you're going to want to use of this. So just go ahead and determine if you wanted to use the light side or the dark side. So I had the light side. So the way I usually do this is I will just put this down, but I don't ever put my adhesive all the way to the very, very edge, because I want to make sure that I can tuck stuff up underneath it. And that gives me a lot more space to do it. I'm just centering this here on the page, and then I'm going to tuck this in here. Now look at the stencil as you're doing this. Can you tell that that was a tree, or do you just see kind of the fun line of it? And then we're going to put this here in the center. I just think that that's so fun. You can't tell that that was a tree. It's just going to give it this fun background accent that's going to kind of pop. All right, so now we're going to take our little half square opening, or to me, this always makes me think of a goalpost, but we're going to take that and we're just going to adhere that off the edge of our page. So it's just going right here to the center, and it's kind of going to, go up underneath it again. So go ahead and get your favorite liquid adhesive, whatever that may be. And if you like tweezers, you can grab some tweezers. Okay. And then we're just going to stick this up underneath it a little bit, and so that it's kind of center of our circle. You could put it a little bit lower if you wanted. You can do it however you'd like there. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take the word Grateful, and we're going to put 3D foam tape on that. And we're going to put 3D foam tape all across the back of this, but I'm not going to take the adhesive off, or the, what do you call it, the backing to the adhesive piece off of the back of the part that's going to overlap where my photo goes, because I don't want it to stick down and then I'm not going to be able to get my photo there, right? So that's why a lot of times I will use little pieces like this instead of a straight strip. I can absolutely use the straight strip and that would be fine, but I would want to make sure that I just tore off the end of it. And then I'm just going to kind of have this overlap into there, and I'm only going to take off this one piece right there. And then just kind of have it go right there. Now, after I put my photo there, I can absolutely go back and take off the backing of those if I'd like. So that would give me some playroom. Now I'm going to show you a couple things that we're going to do with all of our leaves. So if you want to grab the leaf pieces that you have for both sides, so you should have, these are your base leaves. And these are cut for you out of Desert Rose. Sorry, I had to stop and think about what it was that it was cut out of. But this was cut out for you out of, hold on one second. I'm sorry. It looks like I'm having an issue. I want to make sure that you're not having an issue with this trying to come up on our Facebook page. Not sure what's going on. Let me look. Again, I apologize. I hate to slow down, but I want to make sure that it's coming through okay for you. My screen went black, so hopefully yours did not. Nope, it looks like it's still there. So I apologize. I'm not sure what just happened, but I didn't want to keep going and then you not be able to see what I was doing. Okay, so here are our little pieces of our leaves that I had pre-cut out for you. Now we're going to do a fun technique that you can do with really any of your embossing folders that you have. I'm going to just kind of use, if I can see it here, I always lay stuff on top of my other pieces. This sunburst one, I really like how this worked because I can do several of them at a time, and I'm just going to be picking up the pieces of the little circles. Again, this is getting the texture off of something and not being able to show what the original design was, but getting your own design. So what I'm going to do is I want this so that what is raised is on the bottom and what the whole part is, or the indentation, isn't on the top. That way when it goes through, it pushes up and I end up getting erased on the top of my design. I hope that makes sense. And I don't really want to put it smack dab in the middle, or else I'm going to get a circle here. But I do want to try and get as many of my dots on it as possible. So I'm going to bring these all towards the center as close as I can, because that's where most of those dots are laying at. And I can even put my stems towards the center, because that's not going to show up as much. And then I'm just going to close it up like this. And then I'm going to put this through my die cutting machine. Now I'm going to do it off camera and off to the side so that it doesn't cause an issue with the shaking of the table. And when it goes through, it does not have to be hard or heavy or pressed or anything like that. I try and keep it pretty light so that it's not going to tear or cut into my paper. It's not going to let the white core come through, but it's still going to make the indent. So when I do that on my machine, I have it set to the letter press at the 2D emboss. And then I have the press and twist part at the bottom. I have it more towards the loose side, like at between the 2 and the 3. So if that helps you as you're trying to determine how hard you want to press. But see what it was able to do? It got these fun little designs. It gives texture without having to do hardly anything to it. And I really, really, really love that look. So we're going to take those and we're going to put these off to the side. And then I'm going to have you grab your Desert Rose ink. And I forgot to grab mine, so I apologize. I'm going to grab mine real quick. And then again, you're going to grab a brush of some sort, whether you want to use a sponge or a brush or any of that. So I'm going to move this out of the way for a second. And I just want to give the tops of these just a little bit of extra ink. So I'm going to just kind of come in from the sides like this. And that's going to just, instead of covering the whole thing, it's going to give it the dimension or the different colors kind of coming over the edge without it coming all the way, you know, right on top of it. You're going to have some dimension from the sides and the back and all over. There we go. I'm going to do that with all of these. So if you wanted to do any prep work on the cards or that kind of thing, you could absolutely do this with your other leaves that are with your cards. You go ahead and do this step, and then it will just make it go a little bit faster. I probably will do that just to kind of help save you guys time since I'm showing you how to do this. And again, I'm not trying to get full coverage of this ink color all over this design. I'm just trying to get it kind of towards the edges. I want it to look like an actual leaf. You know, they all have like the different colors or the changing colors. That's what I'm enjoying getting off of that, okay? Of being able to put it just on the edges and pulling it in from the sides instead of just going off from the top. All right, so now what we're gonna do is you can get, again, you can do your favorite adhesive, whatever it is that you like. I'm gonna actually use, if I can get it open this time, I'm gonna use our liquid glass. And I'm gonna show you just a fun technique to be able to get these itty bitty little pieces here together on without having to do dot, dot, dot. So I'm just gonna kind of make a puddle, if I can get this started. I've been having problems with it lately, and a lot of times it's fabulous, but every once in a while it decides to act up. All right. There we go. I'm just kind of creating a little puddle on my work surface. You could do this on your all-purpose mat, which I love to do as well. Okay, and then I'm just gonna take my tweezers. You could do this with a paintbrush or anything like that and just kind of paint it on, but I'm actually just going to dip it into my adhesive so that it's got all the little pieces there, and then I'm going to just go ahead and put this. I always start with the tail, or the tail, ha ha ha, right there at the end. Words are hard this morning, or this evening. See, I don't even know what time of the day it is. With the stem, not the tail. And I think I missed one little spot, so I'm just going to take my adhesive and just put a little dot up underneath. This must be where my tweezers were holding it. And then, well, I don't think any came out. Let me try it again. Thing with using liquid glass is it will look like glass at the end, right? It's going to kind of give it a shiny look. So I don't want to have any extra than what I have to on this because I don't want it to lose that. Now, if you're afraid that it's not going to stick down, then what you could do is you could take some your block and put your block on it and hold it down. That's sometimes what I will do there. Let me take my stamp off before I forget and then lose it because I am known to do that. All right, so then I'm going to go. And these other two, again, are from the other side. So we're just going to kind of go ahead and do it all at the same time since we have it here. And I'm just going to turn this again. And then I'm starting with the stem, laying down the stem, and then that's going to help me as I go to lay down all the other parts. So again, just laying that on top. And then I'm taking my last one. Same thing, putting the stem in there, sides. When I'm working with something that is so fine as these, that's what I like to do. I like to create my puddle that I have there and then dip it into it because it's so hard to not get it on the front and the back and all around when I'm doing it any other way. That's what I've found anyway. All right. I'm just going to dab that off, and I'll take my cleaner to this later and get it all clean. Oop, sorry, I'm sure that did not come out very well for the camera, but Just cleaning that off real quick. All right, and then those should be good to go. All right, and I will say when I use my liquid glass, one way that does tend to help me is if I shake it and then kind of tap it down so that I'm getting all of the adhesive out of the tip. That will, you know, help it kind of go to the base, and then it will do better. All right, so then we're just going to go back to our original. We're going to kind of take, you can use whichever one you want as far as the two smaller ones because they're the same size. And I'm just going to put some adhesive on the back. And I'm using my liquid adhesive just because that stem, it allows me to get into the stem. But be careful again because you're going to be putting your photo here. So you want to kind of put it off to the side so that you can still kind of get your photo in without this giving that an issue, if that makes sense, okay? And then there you go. That's page 1. All right, so page 2 is going to come together again, super, super simple. It's not going to be hard at all. We're following all the same things. We've already done some of our prep steps here for our leaves, so that's fun. But we're just going to go ahead and we're going to add on these pieces just like we did for the first. So again, whatever side you chose for your acorn, you're going to choose that same side. So I'm just going to go ahead. I chose the light side. Again, it's about 1/8 of an inch from the edge here. Just like that, okay? And we're just following that same pattern. So I want to be able to use my wood grain. And then we're going to use this piece as well. And again, whichever side you chose, that will be on the first side is the one you're going to do on this side. All right, so now we're going to go back and we're going to grab our stencil that we used a few minutes ago. We're going to use the same piece and we're going to do the same technique. So I'm going to use, again, the same one here. If you used a different one, then stick with that, okay? I'm going to put this down because I'm going on top of the acorn piece. I'm going to use the acorn ink, okay? So let me clean up all my little pieces and get out my acorn ink. And then my acorn brush. Love to know if you guys use the same brush for all the colors in that color family, or if you have a different brush for each color. I tend to have a different brush for each color, but then at the same time, a lot of times I will go, and if I have a green out and I forgot to label that brush, you know, and I see one with a head green on it, I'll kind of go with it, and it might have been a different green. So I kind of go back and forth. All right, so we're just going to turn this. Again, we're going with the opposite side of our tree. I'm going to block off any others because I don't want to get it where I don't want it and pick up the other tree, right? And I'm just kind of going up over, trying to get my color to kind of spread up through there, give it some good design. Okay, there you go. And then we're going to just wash this off so that when we do the mink in a minute, we don't get it brown. Okay. So now same thing, pull that, we're going to pull that piece back in and we're going to use the mink. So let me grab my mink ink. Here we go, and my mink brush. Okay, people, I am like totally losing my mind. I just had my piece here. I moved it to clean this, and now I've lost my piece. How in the world did I do that? It's called having everything like right at your fingertips, and so much so that you can't see what you just had. Oh my goodness. Oh, there we go. Ah. Okay, this is real life, people. Real life. This is like as crazy as it gets is my life right here. I set it aside and it fell. And yeah, just crazy. There's really no words. There's no explanation. It's just called Heather's life. All right, same thing. Mink. we're just kind of going, and I'm just following it. And I've got to be careful. This one I actually did not put it very carefully where that center line, it is still on my page, and I really wanted that off. So I'm gonna try and do it and then move it. I don't know if I'll succeed, but I'm gonna try. Let's see if that's gonna allow me to do it or not. I just kind of pulled it down. Not really, but that's all right. All right, so again, same thing. We're doing the opposite side on the, so it's coming down. It just kind of almost looks like an arrow pointing at each other, right? Just a fun design with the arrow. All right. So taxes is where things are in my mind right now. How about you guys? Have you started working on your taxes? I thought about it, and then I was like, you know what? Let's play and let's scrapbook tonight. So you can see how much that how excited I am about doing that, right? But it's good to get it done and be done with it. I needed to get out of my mind, so I know that that will be coming up soon. All right. So we're going to go back to this, and then we're going to pull back out our stamp, and I'm going to pull out my stamp, the little padding for my stamp. We've got this piece right here, and we're going to use thankful, grateful, and blessed. Now, these little dots, let me show you kind of how this is made up. And these were ones that were just cut up by a friend. She sat down and made all of these little cuts based off of this. So there's really not a thin cut for this one. There's not, you know, all the fun little pieces to it, so you kind of have to play with it and figure it out. So what I can tell you is where you see it coming out on the right, where it's got those little tall notches, this is basically what it's gonna look like. Your notch is gonna be on the right side, and then you're gonna have the rounded one kind of come from there. And when you go to put it on your block, just to kind of double check, thankful is the first one we're gonna use, and you should see the L kind of go into that little notch there. Okay, we're going to do this again in the acorn. And if you haven't used your stamps, don't forget to season them, which means you're just going to kind of rub it up against your hand, or take, you know, something to it, or do random stamps on another sheet of paper so that you can get the film that is on it from when it was created. If you don't do that, you end up getting all of the ink tends to ball up on the stamped image, and then you kind of don't get a good crisp image. All right, so same thing, we're going to come down with grateful. The L for grateful is going to go into that corner. My thankful was down a little bit too much in my opinion, but it will still work. It's hard to see it. I like to be on top of it basically when I'm doing it. And then we're going to put blessed. And I can't do that. I can't stand on top of it when I'm recording it for you. So there we go. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our charcoal ink like we did on the other side, and we're going to use the thin little sayings that we wanted there. So for under thankful, I've got for all the ways you brighten my life. No, I'm sorry, for all the cherished moments. For all the cherished moments, we're going to do under thankful. And then we're going to do today and every day I am, so that it kind of goes with the blessed. And I love this stamp set because there's so many, the thank you. I mean, how many times do we need to write a thank you card or something like that? And there's so many different fun ways to say it in there. And we're going to make some fun cards as well. But I love that, you know, it's got so many different designs of the Thankful. You can never have too many, in my opinion. All right. So we've got that part done. Put this back. Now, I did not add any embellishments to this, and you absolutely could. You could go and add in some more gems or sequins or anything that you want, but I really felt like the glitter paper did so much for this, and I really just fell in love with it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to kind of just show you, whoops, I've got this going in the wrong direction. So we've got this time with our mink to the left, okay? And I'm just going to center this here in this page. It's kind of going to butt up against the white paper. And again, whatever side you used for this strip here is the side that you're going to want to use with your half moon. So I did the light side, so that's what I'm using now. So there we go. And I'm just going to center it a little bit better. Where when I go to do these types of things, I really have to be standing up in order to get it straight like I want it to. All right, so we're going to take this first one, and we're going to kind of, I'm just laying it out right now so that you can kind of see what I'm doing, okay? This one's going to kind of go up underneath, right up to the corner, just like that, okay? That's kind of what we're looking for. We're going to tuck these up underneath and put our title here. So again, when you go to put these down, make sure that you don't put adhesive all the way to the edges. Just make sure you get some good adhesive there in the center so it's not going to fall off, but that you're able to tuck up underneath. So this is going to be about a 1/2 inch, again. Well, I would say actually closer to 1/4 from the up from the bottom and to from the right side. And then now on this one, when I go to put it down, I'm not going to put any adhesive here because I want to get my photo up underneath, okay? So again, I'm going to kind of go not too close to the sides and not too much at that bottom right corner. I want to make sure that I'm not going to have any issues there. This one I'm going to do a 1/4 inch from the top, but more of a 1/2 inch from the left, and that's because I'm going to fill in some of that space with my glitter paper. Okay, so we're going to take this piece of glitter paper, and I'm going to get it ready, and I'm going to pull up my piece that I have here and tuck this up underneath, and it's going to go just about a 1/2 inch from the bottom of my charcoal and all the way to the edge of the paper, and that's where I'm going to leave that. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one on the other side at the top. And liquid adhesive probably would work better than this tape adhesive on this piece, but we're going to make it work. All right. So I'm just going to tuck this in right here. There we go. All right. Now I've got my Thankful, Grateful, and Blessed, and I'm going to go ahead and put 3D foam tape up over or on the back of that because I want to make sure that that stands up fairly well for me. We've got a group downstairs, and I love it. I get to hear them giggling and having a blast, and that just makes me so happy. So happy when I can hear them just having fun with one another and getting together. We all need that, don't we? All right, so there we go. Now, before I put this down and take it all off, it's going to go right here in this section. But I want to make sure, A, that I'm not getting any adhesive onto where my photo is going to be. And I want this big one tucked up underneath it. So I'm going to put just a little bit of adhesive, not on the ends of the leaves, but just in the center. Okay, and I'm going to have it tucked in, and the only thing I've got to watch is that it doesn't go off the edge. And again, my leaves, if it overhangs, I want to make sure I don't have an issue there. Then I'm going to go ahead and take these off and adhere this down. I love the texture that the embossed leaves, and also that the stenciling gives to it, because it really just takes that plain cardstock up a notch. And so I really hope that you guys are using that and seeing, you know, just how beautiful it is, and then using that more in your projects that you do every day. Okay, I'm just going to take a couple of these, putting them on the back. I'm not going to put anything on the stem of it. And I'll put one here. I think I can get one in the center. Yep. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this up on top, so it's kind of overlapping my saying. And so I did not put any of the 3D foam tape on the stem because I wanted it to all be at the same level. And so that's bringing this leaf at the same level as my saying. And so there you go. So I like this, even though, you know, this stamp set came out for our November stamp of the month, and it was a thank you stamp set and all of that. I really feel like, you know, this paper, this theme does not have to be thank you, you know, or I'm sorry, Thanksgiving related. It can be for really anything. I'm just going to take off the back of my adhesive off the back of this, and I am good to go. All right. So fun times. So let's go ahead. Let's keep going. We've got a couple cards that we can do. So let's grab our cards. These are cards that we're going to be making. And again, they're all just so fun. They've got some great designs here. Very simple if you really think about it, but lots of just fun that we are able to take our mix-in papers for. And I love that we're able to do that. So we're going to start with this one here. This is a great card. Again, I really hope that you're creating these cards, but also learning with these cards of some fun things that you can do. This is a great card that if you have a lot of scraps in your stash that will kind of commingle, or this was even from the mix-in paper. So they're all different colors, but they all kind of come together well. This is a great way to be able to take those scraps and use them. And these just come from our Make It From Your Heart books. And so I love that we're able to just, you know, use up the scraps. I'm a die-hard scrapbooker per se, you know, all the time. I'm just drawing lines as I'm talking, so I'm going around that. And this is going to make all the ends stick out a little bit more so that you can see the individual papers on their own. But I'm a die-hard scrapbooker. I always start with scrapbooking. And then whatever papers I have left over, that's when I go to create my cards. So, unless of course it's like for Christmas cards, which I am super, super ashamed to admit. I have made many, many Christmas cards in the last few years, and I have sent a few, but I have not done our traditional Christmas card in like the last 2 to 3 years. So if you think I just have forgotten about you, no, I have not forgotten about you. We just have not been able to do it for life's sake. So it's just these last few years have been a little cray-cray, but God is good and we are still here, and all of my children are here and my parents are here, and so I will take cray-cray if that's what that takes, right? All right, so I'm just doing this on each one of these pieces. And again, we're just, if you want a straight line, take a ruler to it. I'm just going through this like this. I'm not looking for a super straight line. I'm looking for a more, definitely not going off the edge of my page, but I'm looking for more just a fun, whimsical look that's gonna pull that in. All right, and then you can see off of my original, I'm just gonna glue these down. Now the hardest thing about this layout, or this card probably, is making sure everything is kind of even. So I'm gonna put this first one down, and I'm gonna do it just about again, 1/8 of an inch from the left side and center top to bottom. And then I'm going to kind of lay this one out. Now, I want to make sure, first of all, that they're the same height. So I'm going to take this gray piece and use this almost like it's a ruler, so that this is going to help me make sure that at least I'm going up to the same edge. Then I'm going to put this one, and this is the one on the opposite end. So let me move this up so it's easier for you to see. I apologize. I'm moving this up right here and putting this right here. Obviously this is not where it's going to go, but this is going to help me make sure that I am at the same level. And then I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the page. All right, so now I've got my two ends. Now I need to do that center part. So what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm just going to lay them out until I can make sure that I have them exactly where I want them to go. They should each have about 1/8 of an inch in between them, which is pretty tiny, but it's enough. Oh, and I forgot to put my white or my black line on this, but it's enough that it's going to make it stand out on its own. And then once, if you're ahead of me, once you get those where you feel like there's good spacing in between it, the spacing is the same in between each one, then go ahead and adhere them down. I like to do one and then, you know, go kind of from the outsides in, but you can do however you want. Again, I'm going to just take this, I'm going to take a little bit of tape so it will hold it in place while I'm doing this. Again, just to make sure that it's going to take me an extra step to do it, but I'm going to be happy that they're all, you know, I know how far to push it down, basically. And I'm not going to have to worry about them looking like they're stair steps or something like that. All right, so make sure I like where I had them. See if I need to give it a little bit more room or any of that. Okay, we'll just press that down. And again, go to the pink. Do the pink first. Push that up. And this is just how I do it. If you have a trick that you enjoy doing it and it works for you, you can do it your way. But this is what works for me to kind of help keep everything in alignment and from working from each side. And you guys have seen me enough that you know I end up having to pull it up and back and forth and all of that enough times. But this seems to give me the best placement each time. Okay, so then we're going to take our charcoal piece and we're going to come up about 1 inch from the bottom, and we're just going to put this directly from one edge to the other, going across. All right, we're going to take our glitter piece, our frame, and we're just going to adhere this down. To the center of our little square, and this is going to be our backdrop for our title or our saying. Okay, and then once that gets done, you can go ahead and put your adhesive on it. And we're just going to lay this down. We want about 1/4 of an inch below the line and about 1/2 of an inch. We want it to still overlap this last piece, so that's really kind of bringing those together. So just make sure, like I can give you the dimensions in the saying, but that's really what you're looking for, is that it is overlapping this piece and this piece at the same time. So it's getting all 4 of those pieces together. All right, so then again, let's pull in our stamp set, and this time we're just going to use our black or charcoal. You can use either one, whichever you prefer. And because this one doesn't have any of our leaves on it. We don't need to do any of the texture with that, but don't worry, we are going to do that again because I just think that's such a fun look. And I do think maybe I did this originally in charcoal. So let me go back to charcoal. Let's see what we think. All right, so again, make sure that you season your stamp. Oh, and I grabbed the wrong piece to begin with. All right. I think that it goes like that. I should have checked it before I got started, huh? There we go. Actually, I think this is going to be a little too light, but it will work for this card. All right. Not too shabby. Now we're going to do the same thing with their, oh, I just realized it's not on the camera for you. I apologize. All right. So now we're going to do the same thing with our thankful. Or I'm sorry, our thank you. Just make sure. I know I've already created it, but for some reason in my hand, this stamp set looks bigger than my cut, but it looks like it's going to fit just fine. Sometimes when I create and then don't make it with y'all for a little while, I forget what I did. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? All right, there we go. Excuse my arm. Let me clean that off. All right. Now we're just going to go ahead and adhere this part down. So this isn't anything groundbreaking. Again, I did not add any extra embellishments or anything to this. You absolutely could, but I really wanted the glitter paper to kind of be the star of the show. That was my whole point. I think sometimes we forget about the glitter paper, and I love that we can do different designs like this. We can just keep things fun and fresh and going, and I enjoy doing it like that. All right, so again, grab your 3D foam pieces, and we're just going to use that here. Now, if I were Karen from Close to My Heart, I would have this sucker completely covered. There would be no place that you could see the original design. But I think that's a little crazy, because I know that these pieces are going to hold up well. And I'm not going to have to worry about it, right? All right, and then this is just going to go at the bottom of the thank you. Again, I want some of my glitter paper shining through on all the sides, but I want it to come up, kind of come up to the thank you portion. And there we go. All right. So let's grab our next card. Let's see, which one are we going to do now? All right, it looks like we're going to do this card. So this is a fun card. Let me put this aside. Again, nothing super crazy or new with this one. Let's go ahead, while we've got all of our pieces together though, we're in our stamp set out, let's go ahead and stamp Grateful on it. And I'm going to use black. I think the black showed up a little bit better, so I'm going to use the black on that one. I'm going to use the Grateful again that we used from the beginning. Now this card does have a little bit of our stenciling on it, so we are going to do some of our stenciling again. Put thank you away. We're just going to put this down. I'm holding it there just a little bit longer so I can make sure I get a good crisp image. Sometimes we just got to wait an extra second or two so that all of the ink can transfer correctly like we want it to. All right, so that's all I need to do right now. before I do the rest, and I am going to do a little bit more. Actually, let's go ahead and do it. We can do it since we have our ink and everything out. I'm not going to adhere this part down yet, but I'm putting it there just so I have the placement. And then I'm going to go back to my stamp set, and it's going to say, I'm going to take the You Are in My Life. You can do, again, any of these that you'd like, but that's the one I'm going to grab. And I want to put it right here at the bottom, above the bottom line of the glitter paper, but I wanted to use the glitter paper kind of as a guide, so I would know exactly where to put it. So I'm just going to make sure I've got my glitter paper where I want it to be, or where it's going to be, which is centered, and then I'm going to put this here. You're in my life. I have to keep closing up my ink pad because I know if I don't, I'm going to put my hand or my paper or all of it in there. All right, so before I go on, I'm going to get out my design of my stencil, and I want to stencil just a little bit, just like we did on the other pieces with this. Now, what I'm going to do for this one is, you can choose any of them. I would say go with something a little bit smaller. I think I'm actually going to do the one that's kind of beside it, and I'm not going to put the whole tree on it, but I'm not going to keep the whole tree or only do a half of it either. I'm going to put a little bit more on it than I did before, and I'm just going to have it kind of going off to the side. Again, I'm going to go to my Mink. This is Mink paper. I want to kind of do a tone on tone. So let me take this piece off, put this back down, and I'm just kind of covering up anything else that I can be using, or that I could be getting into it that I want to make sure I'm not getting into it. Okay, so I'm going to my Mink ink, and I'm just going to kind of, this time I can swirl it a little bit more because these pieces are going to hold down better than those straight lines did. Okay, but we just want to kind of get in there. I'm trying to keep it somewhat light. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn my paper so that it's upside down again. I'm going from, now that it's upside down, I'm going to just do the same thing, but it will be upside down when I have it right side up, if that makes sense. But same side of the tree. And there we go. Again, it really doesn't look like, in my opinion, it does not look like a tree, especially once we start putting our titles and our wording and all of that on there. All right, so go ahead. Now we can grab our frame. And I know I'm doing my embellishment part first before I do my base, but because we already had all the pieces out, why not, right? We already had our stamps out and all of that. All right, now we're just going to center this like we had originally done in order to make our stamp, and just put that down, and it's good to go. Okay. Now I'm just going to take my pen again, and I'm just going to outline the one that's the lighter of my zip strip piece. The one with all the stars I'm not going to do because that one's pretty dark on its own. I don't think it really needs anything to pull it out, but this one needed just a little bit more. Okay. And then what I'm going to do for this, I always like to kind of do one on top of the other one and then kind of put them down together. So this is going to be my straight piece, and I know that the arrows, and you can have it going in either direction, but I know that that's the piece that's going to kind of be at an angle. I hope this is showing up okay on the camera. But see how that piece is kind of at an angle, and then I have my stars going straight across. So I'm going to kind of get my angle correct the way I want it first, and then put my stars down on top of it. And I put adhesive back on my stars, so that's going to keep it like I want. Okay, now when I go to add it to my paper, I just have to remember to put my stars on straight. Don't worry about the other piece, but put my stars on straight. And I tend to want to worry about the other piece, so I just got to kind of remind myself. And I want my stars to go all the way to the edge of my paper, and that means that the arrow piece is going to go off the edge. All right, so then again, let's go ahead and put foam tape on the back of here. Clean up my workspace a little bit. Foam tape and glitter paper, just to me, make and break a card. Without it, or, you know, I mean, you can use too much, but just a little bit goes such a long way, and it really makes everything pop. Whether it's being with the height change or the sparkly change or whatever. Okay, whoop, that's upside down. And then we're just gonna have this kind of go on top of those pieces and kind of pull those together. All right, so there you go. So that part's done. So let's go ahead and get our base. And I'm sure you can see how easily that this is gonna be to put together. So same as I did it the first time on that other card, I'm gonna do it on this one. I'm gonna go from the outsides in. So I'm gonna put this outside piece down, and then I'm gonna put this piece down. And I truly like, I'm not a pink girl. If you know much about me, I'm not a ton into pink, but I love this color, mulberry. All right. Or I say mulberry, it's not, it's desert rose. But mulberry was another favorite. All right, and then this should fit right here in between, but if it overlaps a little bit on either side, that'll be absolutely fine. And that's why I did it like that. Okay, so now we're just gonna put this down smack in the middle. Okay, and then you're gonna take your black pen, and we're just gonna outline all the way across. And I talked in one of my last videos how I have, and I'll just say it again because I know I've told you guys this a couple times, how to do it if you're trying to write your lines versus, you know, other ways. And everybody is different. So it is definitely easier to move your arm if you go down. So I'm going to show you what I do, you know, if you're going down. You just keep your hand completely straight, but you're pulling your arm back. So it's your arm that's moving, not your hand or your wrist. And notice that one actually did pretty well. It's a pretty straight line. And you just would move your paper to do it. When you have, oh, and see right there, I kind of went out, but it is what it is, right? But when you have a really long piece or a long side, and this is a long side, that is probably the easiest way to go. When I'm doing something smaller, I have found for me, because I'm used to writing across the paper, I do well going across, but I can only get your hand to go so far before you have to pick up and move your paper and do it again. So play around with it. Just get a couple pieces of scrap paper, see what works best for you. You know, don't feel like it has to be one way or another based upon how somebody's taught you. I have always done the going down side. And it works well, but I know that I just tend to, I'm able to balance it, I think, a little bit better sometimes when I'm going across. Okay, and then I'm going to just put this centered on the card from left to right, but about 1/2 of an inch from the bottom. That means it's going to go right about there. There we go. So super simple, pretty, I think, you know, again, just with a pop of the color. I love, love, love that. All right, we're doing well. So I say, let's keep going. All right, let's take out another card. Okay, so this one, we're gonna get to do a lot of fun stuff again, doing a lot of the same that we did with our original layout. So this is gonna be really fun. Let's go ahead and put our base pieces down just because that's what we've been doing this last time, and then we can do all the extra pieces or all the extra fun parts together. All right, so for this, they're tall enough that they're gonna go straight from the bottom to the top, but we're not gonna go all the way to the edges. So let's start, because we're not going all the way to the edges, we don't have to do the outsides going in. We can do them in strips, kind of like we did with our base layout. So I'm going to come in again about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the corner that opens up. Okay, just like that. I'm going to put down the one that kind of looks like linen paper, and then I'm putting down our acorn piece. All right, now we're going to do this. Again, if you want to use the other side, feel free to use the other side and have the polka dots up top instead of the, whoops, this one I have up a little too high. Let me see. I don't want it to rip my paper. There we go. Started to rip it. There we go. And that will get covered anyway, it won't matter, but I needed it to be more centered. All right, there we go. All right, so again, I'm gonna take my pen and we're gonna outline it, and I'll show you what I mean as far as, because this is our shorter edge. So I'm gonna go along the top, and this time I'm just gonna go straight across, okay? So I'm kind of bringing it close to me as I get started so that my hand has further to go before I really have to lift it, okay? So for a short period, that can kind of work. If you have to stop and start, a lot of times it's easy to see that dot that you're having. For a longer, it's easier to kind of just draw it down and just move your arm and not your hand, just kind of keeping your hand in the same spot. All right, and then, so again, I'll show you going across at the top. And since I'm hitting different levels of paper, it's kind of giving me a little stopping point, I guess you could say there. When you're just doing one sheet and it doesn't have those different levels, you do have a little bit of it is a little bit easier. All right, now I'm trying really hard not to be on the edge of either one of these pieces. I want to hit it just in that white spot. So I kind of just go slowly and go across, and that seemed to work okay. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back and we're gonna take our same thing. We're gonna take this design, and this time I wanna use the crisscrossy pattern here in the center. So I'm gonna lay this down, and I'm gonna pick up my tape that's gonna help me kind of keep this in place. I want a good part of it to kind of come up to this line of the toffee paper, or I say toffee, I'm sorry, that's a throwback, our acorn paper, but it to not go onto the acorn paper. So that's kind of how far I know to bring it in. And then if there's anything close by, I'm gonna just use this to hold it off, okay? So I wanna have, I'm using my tape to hold it in place. And then I'm gonna get my acorn ink again and brush. Okay, and I'm just gonna kind of go over it back and forth. And this time, again, I just wanna make sure I'm not picking up this one. I've gotta be really careful there. And then I'm kind of getting that color. And I love this because to look at it, you would not know it's a tree. But I love the design that it gives, just like this. Now I'm gonna turn this over and I'm gonna do the same thing, same design, but this time I'm gonna go from the center, this part here, and I'm gonna kind of overlap, but I wanna take, so it's coming down from the top, but I'm gonna take my tape and I'm gonna cover that up. I wanna make sure, again, it's not gonna go onto that acorn. And that's gonna give me a nice little stopping point. So it's gonna not overlap the other image that I have, but it's also not gonna overlap the acorn. So it's gonna kind of fill in that. And you could do this with any color. I'm choosing to use acorn because that's the cardstock that I have right beside it. But if you wanted, you could have taken the Desert Rose and used that as well. Just again, to get a little bit more of the color. All right. I love our ink pads because they're magnetic and they're super easy to open and close and all of that, but they do pick up all the metal pieces on my desk. All right, so let's go ahead and clean this off. And any goop or anything that it's picked up. Okay. And so this is the design, but especially when you hold it like that, to me, that does not at all look like that's a tree. That's just my opinion, but I don't think that it does. Okay, so we're gonna have this here, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this down in it. We're not gonna do anything to the background of this piece. Take some adhesive. Because we're gonna fill that piece up pretty well. All right. Just like that. All right, now I'm just going to go ahead and adhere this down straight to the paper. And it's going to go center towards the top of the paper. So it's going to be as far down as it is from left to right. We're going to put that down. Then before we do anything else, we're going to do our stamping. So go ahead and get your base foam again, and we're going to get this piece. Remember, we want those little notches sticking out towards the top on the right side. We're going to do the same thing. Thankful, grateful, and blessed. This time we're going to do it in black. And we're not going to put anything over the top of it this time like we did with the other. That's why we're going to go with black instead of having those little sayings in a different color over the top, or in black over the top of a different color. So again, same thing, thankful towards the top, making sure the L kind of goes off the edge. Grateful. And then blessed. Okay. Now before we're done with our stamping, we're going to do this last little saying we're going to do for all you do. So if I pull this out, I'm going to see, let me see. For all you do right here is underneath the word gratitude towards the top. And I'm going to put it at the very, very top of my block. Because I want to put it right here on my stamp, and if I have it, or on my card, if I have it towards the center, then my block might hit this top, and then it would not allow it to lay flat like I want it to. So I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to just put it going over the acorn, and I keep wanting to say a different color. I want to say rose gold, but that's not it. Hello, desert rose. See, I knew it was rose. And I'm just going to kind of put it here, and we're just going to put it right underneath our square, just like that. And again, I needed to use black on this part so that it would show up really, really well on top of all those colors, right? If I don't know that it would have shown up quite so well if I had used charcoal. All right. So same thing that we did on our layout. We're going to take our leaves. We're going to go ahead and put our leaves through with our embossing folder. And you know what? Go ahead and open up your other card as well. The last one that we have to do, we're going to do the leaves all at the same time to kind of save us some time. So I'm going to grab my final card. We're going to pull out the leaves from there. I'm going to leave everything else in there. I don't want to lose anything. But I am going to take out these, save you guys and me some time for the rest of it. And I'll show you something else in a minute. All right, so, and then we're going to close it. And remember, I don't want anything overlapping or going into that circle except for maybe the stems. But it's all going to kind of point around there. All right, and then we're just going to put this through our die cut and embossing machine. And again, while we have this out, I'm going to put the other two pieces back in with that card. But that other card has a white square, and we're going to do the same thing to the white square. So go ahead. Let's get these pieces out. I'm going to put these two back with that card. Leave these two here with this card. Hope I'm not making it too confusing for you. And then, so we have this piece here, and for this white square, I am going to put it smack dab in the center. So I want to make sure that I'm getting that circle right there in the center of it, okay? Or pretty close to it. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put it back through our embossing machine. And that way we're taking care of these steps all together at once. And then just go ahead and put that piece in with your last card. Okay, so now we're gonna finish these. So same thing, we wanna just make a little, you can do it either way. We made a puddle the first time. I'll show you, this one's gonna be a little bit easier because it's a bigger leaf, but I'll show you how you could just take your adhesive and just kind of go out towards the tips, especially if you can, because you want to make sure that those little ends of your veins stick down. Okay. And then I told you this earlier, I always start with there at the stem. If I can get that lined up, everything else should kind of line up wherever it needs to. But look at the design on that leaf. I love it. Now notice too, I don't know if you can see it, but I do have a little bit of my adhesive coming through because I didn't use liquid glass, but I used this Bearly Art Glue. That will dry clear and it won't be shiny like the liquid glass. But the liquid glass definitely is a great adhesive for being able to, adhere things down and they're not coming up. I've told you guys in the past, if you've been with me very long, you probably have heard me say this, but I use it for my shoes. I use it for everything. I mean, it really is just an awesome, awesome design that you can use for so many things. Or I say design, but product, sorry. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to set this aside. All right, so let's go back to our base card. What we're going to do is we want to put our large leaf to the bottom, and we're just going to adhere this directly on. Okay, so I'm just having it kind of go off of the edge. I want to make sure that it's all going to fit here within the card, so it's not going to stick off the edge of the card, and we're just going to adhere this directly down. So I'm having the leaf part or the stem part go down kind of on top of the other glitter piece, and it's going to be at an angle here. Then we're going to take our Thankful, Grateful, and Blessed, and we're going to use our adhesive here. We're just going to kind of pull it up, our 3D foam tape, and we want to just make this pop. I loved that these were on the Boxing Week sale, the 3D foam tape for the slimline, because I got so many of them. It's the cheapest way to be able to buy 3D foam, and I love that it's already cut and ready to go for me. All right, so now we're just gonna kind of overlap this here at the top. I want it to overlap my square going up almost to the edge of my paper, and then it's gonna come in and overlap this design here of my leaf as well. And then I'm gonna take this leaf and I want it to overlap the word blessed. We can tell what the word is, that's fine. I don't want to, when I put my 3D foam tape on, I do not want to put it at the tip because that's the part that's going to be here and I don't want it to stick up even higher. So I'm just going to put it on the sides and it towards the bottom. That way I don't have to worry. It's just going to kind of lay down on top, and I'll put just a little bit of adhesive here so it will stick down. It's not going to fly up or anything like that or get pulled up. But it's not also going to have a third dimension or, you know, of the height there. And so then I'm just going to have it kind of going here over the S and the E. And there you go. So such a pretty card. I love, again, love the glitter paper. For somebody who doesn't like pink, that makes me happy. But remember, it's not pink, it's Desert Rose, right? All right, so final card. Can you believe it? We've done it all tonight, and it's not taken us too long either. All right, so we're gonna grab, I love this paper. Look at how just that pretty design on it. We're gonna grab this, and this is gonna be for our base, so we're just gonna put this in the center of our card base. Okay, then we're going to have a chance to practice our drawing again, our line drawing. So you can choose whichever side. I'm going to use the slightly darker side of our mink, and I'm just going to go, and we're just going to put our lines across or down, whichever you prefer. The one thing I have noticed in both ways that I do it is wherever my eyes are is usually where my pen goes. So try and keep your eyes going where you want it to go. Kind of a step up ahead of where your pen is. And then if you do that, your pen will tend to follow. It's kind of like when you're driving a car. If you're looking off to the left, your car's most likely going to start trying to go to the left, right? All right, so same thing. We're going to go ahead and we're going to just adhere this down, and we're going to put it center on our card. Just like that. Now we've got this piece, and we've got, which is our sunburst piece, and then we also have our little piece here that looks like our wood grain. And the wood grain is going to kind of go right at the very, very bottom of our sunburst. So I'm just kind of using this as a design idea to show you kind of how I'll lay it out first to kind of know for sure where I want it. I want to make sure that this piece here is going to have, it's going to be centered inside that gray. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Oh, I want that raised up a little bit. All right, and then now we're going to put this down. All right, we're going to take our little piece of glitter paper here, and we're just going to literally tuck it up just barely up underneath the edge here of our glitter, what do you call it? Wood grain. I'm just going to make sure I've got that opening there, okay? And then just tuck it up underneath. And I want to make sure it does not line up with this piece here. So I want it to kind of look like a stair step so that it kind of gives it that detail, okay? And then we've already got our leaves done. So the only thing we need to do left is we need to write down or to stamp in our design and then glue our centers of our leaves. So again, we're using For the Friendship We Share. And we're going to use black. Okay. And then you can put on the inside, thank you, or I'm so grateful for you. You can do however you want, but we're just going to kind of do this on the outside. Same thing. We're taking the center of our leaves. Now I would do another puddle if I still had so many to do, but since I only have just these last two, I'm just going to do the dots and hope that I don't get too much spreading out from it, and that the oops, I got a hair. There we go. But that I also get it all the way to the ends, and so then the ends will lay down flat. There we go. And then we'll do this last one. So this workshop this time, really, there was a lot, not a lot to it, but I think it had a fun design. We got to really play with some of our different techniques and items that we have in our stash, which I love doing that at any time. But it didn't take, a lot of time to do it. And so remember that when you're creating. If you're like me, you're like, oh, I only have so much time. And so I tend not to take out these extra little embossing pads or embossing plates, or, maybe the stencils or something like that if I'm just, working on something small. But it adds so much pop to your cards and your layouts that I do hope next time you'll kind of consider it. All right, the one thing we forgot to do on the last one that I do want to do on this one is let's go ahead and add our Desert Rose ink to the edges, because I just really think, especially with this one being on top, it adds so much pop to it. So I'm just taking it and adding it from the edges. Now, if this is another technique and another idea, if when you're cutting your glitter paper and you're doing something small like the veins of these leaves were, and some of the white paper comes through or it picks off some of the glitter, this is a great way to be able to cover that up. It's just to take that same color, and again, that's where Close to My Heart rocks, is that the papers, the glitter paper, cardstock, gems, whatever, all the colors, if they say it's Desert Rose, it's Desert Rose. They all match across the board. And so I love that, because then I've got some wiggle room if something should happen, that I can just take it and go back to it. Okay, so now I'm going to lay this down, and you see the definition, just adding a little bit of that color, all the different, variants of that. I love it. Love, love. Just again, by taking a little bit of just seconds, right, to add a little bit of color from one piece to the next. All right, and then I'm just going to lay this straight down, and it's just going to overlap the larger one. And then for the Friendship We Share, I am going to add 3D foam to it, but I'm going to go ahead and clean this up first before it transfers. Okay. I don't need that one. All right. friendships we share. We're just going to put this right here at the top and let it overlap. And look at to me, that's such a stunning card. I love the green and the desert rose together, the pops. Like, I just love all the extra texture, and I think it was fun. I hope you think so too. I hope you guys enjoyed making these cards and these layouts, that they're cards that you'll send no matter the time of the year. I think that easily these could be sent at any time. So you've got them in your stash now, and I hope that you will think to send them out, because probably somebody needs a smile, and you got something right in front of you that's going to help bring them a smile. So thank you again for taking some time tonight, or whenever you get to watch this video and create with me. I pray blessings upon you. Happy scrapping, and hopefully we'll be back together again soon. All right, bye-bye.